Before I start this video, I would like to announce a spoiler alert. If you've not completely seen the movie, you should definitely turn away now, or forever be spoiled. Anyways, you have been warned, now let's get on with it. Have you ever thought to yourself, wow, I'd really like to see some awesome movies about a fantasy genre that involves elves and orcs and all other kinds of fantasy things? Well, then I have the answer for you. It's called Lord of the Rings. It's a little movie trilogy called Lord of the Rings, if you haven't heard about it, which you probably should have unless you've been living in some cave of some sort. So, as always, I'm Marcus here, and we're gonna review the Lord of the Rings trilogy today. So, as I said, it's a trilogy, so there are three separate movies, which is based on the books by J.R. Tolkien. And let me just say, these movies are absolutely phenomenal. Sure, they're very long to watch. They can be a bit dull at some points, like all of the separate movies. They're about 3 hours long each, so there's a lot of time between them, but they fill this time up very well. But sometimes, I mean, it can get a bit slow, as I would say, because sometimes they have them just walking and there's not a lot of action happening in some scenes, but then when you finally get to those action scenes, they're just amazing. So, in case you, as I said, lived in a cave of some sort and you don't know the plot of the Lord of the Rings, it basically centers around a couple of hobbits which lives in the Shire, and you have Frodo Baggins and you have Sam, and these two, it centers around mostly around them because Frodo has an uncle which name is Bilbo, and which is an entirely different story. It's an earlier explanation in The Hobbit, which released later, but actually a prequel to them. But that's a whole nother video. So anyway, Bilbo is Frodo's uncle, I believe, of some sort. Yeah, and he discovers the One Ring that Sauron had on his finger, which was the Dark Lord, if you would say, of the Lord of the Rings universe. He's sort of the big bad that everyone feared, and he lived a couple of many years ago, and not a lot of people are still alive to actually remember what happened, because you fast forward so many years between these events. But either way, this one ring, which is a ring that is gonna rule them all, because there are a bunch of other rings that were distributed between the different factions or races of the different elements of Middle Earth, you would say. You have the elves, the humans, the I'm going blank now, the wizards, and yeah, there's a lot of difference anyway. So they make this one ring that was gonna rule them all, and Sauron had it, and he had it with his orcs, and he ruled everything, but then he was defeated in battle, and so therefore the ring was lost for all eternity. But somehow Bilbo gets it, and you get the explanation that there's actually another person called Gollum, which appears, which is such a weird character, which probably should not even be alive at this point, but it's the ring that is keeping him alive, and it's driven him insane. I mean, he's gone completely mental. So either way, Bilbo, he steals this ring from Gollum, so therefore that's why he has it in his possession. So either way, the first movie, it starts off by Bilbo saying goodbye to everyone on his 100th birthday, I believe, or his 101th, something around 100. He's got a lot of years. So then Gandalf comes to visit, which is an old friend of Bilbo, and he's a wizard, if you didn't know. I mean, almost everyone probably know who Gandalf is. But either way, he comes to visit, and then Frodo discovers that Bilbo has left him a little letter, and in it is the ring. So then Gandalf goes to saying, you know, you need to destroy the ring, you need to take it into the middle depths of Mordor and throw it in the lava so that it gets destroyed once and for all. So Frodo then sets out on a quest with his friend Sam, and he also gets accompanied by, let's see, Pippin is one of their names, and Merlin. I keep forgetting what the two twins, by the way, which are also hobbits, which are really funny, and those two accompany them as well. So they're a party of four, and they go on this journey together. So the first movie is basically just, there's a lot of walking and talking, there's not a lot of action happening. You have some scenes that are kind of cool. I mean, you have these Nazguls, which are sort of servants to Sauron, which are basically ghosts or demons in black cloaks riding death horses of some sort, and they're chasing him. So that's basically the entire thing that happens in the first movie, as I recall. It was, I mean, it was a couple of years ago since I watched it, but that's basically the main plot of the first one. And so, I guess, I don't know if I think I'll give it a summarized rating in the end of the entire trilogy. But the second movie then, it talks a lot about, the wizards, because you have Gandalf, as I said, Gandalf the Grey, and then you have another wizard as well, called, oh, crap, I forgot his name. Either way, there's another wizard, and he lives in another part, and he's good at first, but then he turns evil and he joins Sauron's army. So the others don't like that, of course, and there's a lot of fight between Gandalf and him, and they go on, and he produces orcs there as well. So there's a lot of fighting happening right there, and so that's basically, and there's this giant tree dudes that come to aid the hobbits and attack this place. So there's a lot of action happening in this movie as well, but as I said, it's a bit slow. So I'm not gonna explain the entire plot, this then we would be here for a couple of hours. So then the third movie comes along, which is called The Return of the King. And this is by far my favorite movie in the entire trilogy. It is so amazingly well done, and I really enjoy the characters in it. Because you have all these great characters which get introduced. I believe it's in the first movie as well. I forgot to mention that. You have Legolas, which is an elf. You have Gimli, which is a dwarf. And then you have Aragorn, which is a human. And these three, they start a little party of their own and accompany, trying to get Frodo to the ring and so forth. So they sort of represent each faction. So either way, as I said in the title, it's called Return of the King, and this is basically saying that Aragorn is the destined king, which is supposed to sit on the throne, but he isn't, because there's another madman sitting on it for the humans now in myth. I don't recall the city of the humans, but it's something that starts with an M. But sorry about my facts. I mean, it was a while, as I said. But either way, so this is the movie that it all comes down to. The entire movie is basically one giant battle scene, which I really loved. So, and there's a lot of good contrast between it, because you have this entire battle scene that is taking, because the evil forces, they're attacking the human city. So then you have this giant battle going on with a lot of orcs. They are riding war elephants. It just looks phenomenal. And you have the humans, they're getting supported by the elves, and they have their archers, and it's freaking amazing. But then at the same time, you still have Frodo's quest with Sam to destroy the ring. So you get to see them lurking around and trying to navigate through Mordor to get to the Mountain of Doom. I believe it was called, that they're gonna throw it in. Or I don't wait, to the mountain that they're gonna, burn the ring and destroy it once and for all. So they really do nice and switch between the different two to get a sense of, oh wow, this is giant battle going on, it's amazing, and you get this more of a a bit calmer, perhaps because there's not a lot of noise going around, because they're trying to sneak through it, they're trying to be careful and silent as much as possible. So when it all comes down to it, I really did enjoy the trilogy. I have to say I've watched the third one the most times, and I have only watched the third one, the extended version, because they've done extended versions of the entire trilogy, and then they're like 4 hours each, so there's so much time you need to spend on this if you're gonna see them. So anyways, I only watched the extended version of the third one, and let me just say, there's so much scenes that they cut out of the original ones that I can't believe they actually did it, because when you watch the extended versions, you get so much more background and details, and everything just comes together a lot better. For example, in the third movie, by the end, Aragorn gets supported by these ships that come in and have these ghost warriors, they're undead, and they sort of assist him in battle. and you're like, where did they come from? But and you know, you get where they came from because in the original version they show them talking to them, but you don't get to know how they got the ships. But in the extended version, you actually get to see Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, and with these ghosts, they come out of the mountain and they see this fleet that is supposed to be by the orcs, and they take over this fleet. So that's one main reason to why they come by the boats instead. So this is just one of many examples that is not in the original version, but is available in the extended edition of it. So if you haven't seen the extended versions of them, definitely do that. So as I said, I would sort of summarize it into an complete rating of the entire trilogy, and I would rate the trilogy at an 8 out of 10, because I really love the fantasy genre in a whole, and there's just so much potential in it, and the movies are really well made for the time being, because they were produced in the early 2000s, so the movies are really solid. I definitely think you should see the extended versions if you haven't. And yeah, that's it for me this time. If you got any comments, questions, or anything you want me to review next, just leave a comment down below, and I'll see what I can do. Until next time, bye!